Hey VC, it's Jonathan, your cheap and cheerful record collector. So today we're going to do part 2 of my favorite finds of 2018. I don't know if you watched yesterday's video, but that was basically rock and pop and blues, soul, etc. Today's going to be strictly jazz. I had a really good year digging for jazz. Found some great albums, stuff I've been looking for a while. Again, maybe not the most expensive, but certainly my favorites of the past year. Quick recap, just so you know, all these were bought at Goodwill, yard sales, antique malls, or I went on Craigslist and bought things on there. None of these cost me more than $5. Most of them were $2 or $3. A couple of them were free. So, let's get started. The first one is one I couldn't believe I saw this at Goodwill, and you don't really see a lot of his stuff around, and that's R. Crumb. And this is R. Crumb and his Cheap Suit Serenaders. This is number 3 from 1978. He didn't print a lot. This is obviously the first pressing because he only had a couple of pressings all together, this and CD. If you don't know our Crumb stuff, it's sort of New Orleans, Dixieland, jug band, just fun music on the Blue Goose label. Absolutely love this album. Love all his stuff. I mean, you can see he has a accordion, a banjo, a guitar, harmonica, mandolin, steel guitar, saxophone, trombone, tuba, ukulele, violin. You know, R. Crumb is the cartoonist for Mr. Natural and all that other stuff. But he actually put a bunch of albums, a bunch of stuff he put out on 78s. And they're really hard to find at this point. But this is a first pressing, 1978. I was absolutely flabbergasted to find this at Goodwill for $1. If you love that stuff, just great album. Second one is my personal favorite jazz musician of all time, and picked this up. This is Thelonious Monk in Action from 1960, a repress, originally from 1958. 1960 repress with Johnny Griffin, along with Ahmad Abdul Malik on bass and Roy Haynes on drums. This is a stereo pressing on Riverside. Everyone likes to see those old labels. This is an old black Riverside label. Again, it's a repress, but really clean. And I used to have this original way back when I was a teenager, and always loved it, and looking around to replace it for years. So I was real happy to find this one. Even though it's a repress, it's still a great album. Also from Monk, I picked up this year, Monk Underground. It's a 1971 repress of a 1968 album. This one has Charlie Rouse, Larry Gales, and Ben Riley on drums. And this is on Columbia. Nothing special there as far as I remember. Yeah, basic Columbia label. But, you know, great stuff. And actually playing in the background, this could have been one of my top 10 picks, but just didn't make it, is Thelonious Monk's Brilliant Corners. Also on Riverside. This is a mono version. I picked this up too, but this is not part of it, but it could easily have been. Next one, this one I got, I might have mentioned yesterday, this person put an ad in Craigslist, had some records to sell. I went over there, going through her stuff, and I just saw this and I was like bowled over. I've got a number of these jazz albums from her. I got about 200 records. I spent less than $200, so less than $1 each. And Coltrane, by John Coltrane. It's a repress. I couldn't find out on Discogs what year the repress is from. But this has Coltrane and Johnny Splawn on trumpet, Sahib on baritone sax, Red Garland on piano, Paul Chambers on bass, Al Heath on drums. So, also the second side is Mal Waldron playing on there too. And it's the Prestige yellow and black label. So this was an amazing find at that price. I couldn't believe it. I'm just cheapskate. I don't like going out and spending big bucks on jazz albums. I can easily replace a lot of stuff I want if I want to spend $30 or $40 a record, and I find that so hard to do. I'd rather just spend the time digging, and eventually things pop up, like the next album, which I've been looking for many years. One of my all-time favorite jazz albums is Sonny Rollins' Alfie. This is a early, if not a first press of stereo. I'm not really sure. Couldn't figure it out. But what a great, great album. Oliver Nelson did the orchestra conduction. And if you don't know this record, you're missing out. One of my all-time favorite albums. And this is on Impulse, the black and orange Impulse label. That was a good find. Another really amazing find, which I picked up recently, was Mingus. This is a 1964 first press stereo. Beautiful gatefold. Record's in okay condition. Not as great as I'd like it to be. I'd like it to be a little cleaner, but considering I paid $1 for it, I'll keep it. A great album. On this is a big band on here, so I'm not going to go through everybody who's on here, but Eric Dolphy is on here, and lots of other people. Recorded in 1963, and this is a 64 first press in stereo, so real happy to pick that up. Next one, friend found this for me and laid it on me. I was like stunned. Art Blakey and the Jazz Messengers. This is Buonanni's Delight, I guess it's called. And this has Freddie Hubbard, Wayne Shorter, Chris Fuller, Cedar Walton, Jamie Merritt, and Art Blakey on drums, of course. And this is a, as far as I can figure out, it's the first stereo pressing on Blue Note. There you go, the Blue Note label everybody loves. That's a stereo. I'd love to get it in mono, but again, considering someone gave it to me, who am I to complain? So, an amazing record. Just brilliant. And Art Blakey and the Jazz Messengers. Can never have too many Blue Note labels in your collection. And then I got a couple of female singers. The first one is one I've been looking for her records for many years. I didn't find any until this past year. I found like 3 or 4. And it's the great Nina Simone. And this is Forbidden Fruit. It's an early stereo recording, 1961. I don't think it's a first press, but I don't really care. On Colpix. Oop, where am I going here? Here we go. Colpix label. And when I was a young kid, I was like 12 or 13 years old, my parents took me to see Nina Simone perform. This would be 1962 or 63. It was in Long Island, New York. And I remember I was like 12 or 13. I remember how shocked I was when she sang Mississippi Goddamn and used that language. I was like, oh my God, I can't believe she spoke like that. It was an amazing performance and amazing memory. Yeah, Mom and Dad were pretty cool. Nina Simone. This has some of my favorite songs on her: Work Song, Forbidden Fruit, Memphis in June, Gin House Blues, Rags and Old Iron. What a great, great, great album. Next one is one I picked up at Goodwill. Again, kind of thing where you see and you go, I can't believe it's sitting there in Goodwill. And it's a 10-inch, and it's Billie Holiday Sings from 1950. Just Billie Holiday Orchestra. She says, "A Man I Love, St. Louis Blues. I'm going to lock my heart. All of me, myself, and I. Let's do it. You go to my head and traveling all alone." Here's the back. And here's the 10-inch. Here's the 10-inch on Columbia. So, again, this is not in great shape, but it's certainly playable. And I listened to it again yesterday as I was getting these records out. I said, "I'm going to spin this again and see what it's like." And it's a great album. Of course, I always wish it would be cleaner, but for a buck, who's complaining? And then the last one, which is again, I mentioned this, I have a friend of mine who collects, who's a guitar maker. He makes electric guitars as a hobby. He's a lawyer, but that's his side gig. And he goes to Goodwills and all sorts of antique and junk stores, etc., looking for stuff. He looks for old guitars that he refurbishes and old violins. And if he sees something interesting, he'll grab it for me. So he came by a couple of weeks ago and said, I was at some place, he wouldn't tell me where, but I have a feeling it was Goodwill by the pound, because he frequents that place. So I got this record. I don't know how old it is, but I think it's pretty cool. So I looked at it and my jaw hit the floor, because it was Ornette Coleman, The Shape of Jazz to Come. And as I looked into it a little deeper, I found out it is a first press mono on the Atlantic album label. Again, it could have been in better condition, but it was really, when I first got it, it was a complete disaster. And I put it through the spin clean a couple of times, and cleaned it all up, and it plays. I mean, there's pops and nicks, and they're sort of annoying when it comes to the quieter passages. But when the band's rocking, I don't even notice it. So I was real happy to get this added to my collection. I hadn't heard it before. I'd heard of it, obviously, but I never heard it. And I was sort of hesitant because I thought it would be very much free jazz and very out there. And it's not. I mean, there's definitely some free bits to it, but it's a really listenable, just fantastic record. And this one, he has Don Cherry on cornet, Charlie Hayden on bass, of course, and Billy Higgins on drums. So, Ornette Coleman, The Shape of Jazz to Come, 1959. And like I said, as far as I can tell, this is a first press mono. So those are my 10 jazz picks for the year. Again, just my opinion, one man's opinion of my favorite stuff that I happened to find this year. Hope everybody is making it through the holiday season. Hope you have a good New Year's, safe and happy New Year. And here's to digging in the new year. Hope everybody has a lot of success next year digging for records. And most important thing is, have a peaceful New Year. Peace out.